What's up guys, today's video is on Fujifilm X20 Review 2023. Fujifilm claims that this successor to the X10 carries 50 improvements. In our Fujifilm X20 review, Matt Goloksinski investigates whether they add up to a significantly better camera. Manufacturers have long offered digital cameras inspired by analog models. Although the past few years have seen something of a retro renaissance take place, classic styling has evolved into a characteristic of the Enthusiast compact design, and today's models vary between those with little more than classic accents such as aperture rings, to others that at first glance could easily be mistaken for a film camera. Fujifilm's X series of compacts and compact system cameras fall firmly into the second camp. The company's latest X20 compact doesn't appear to be all that removed from the X10 it replaces, although Fujifilm is said to have made 50 changes to justify its release. Naturally, some of these are minor revisions that iron out some of the X10's kinks and idiosyncrasies, although others are considerably more substantial. Features. Although the sensor inside the Fujifilm X20 shares its 2/3 in dimensions with that found in the X10, Fujifilm has opted to use the X-Trans CMOS technology in place of the EXR sensor used previously. Adopted from the X Pro 1 and XE1 compact system cameras, the X-Trans CMOS 2 sensor has a unique color filter array, one which eschews a repetitive red, green-blue pattern for a more random arrangement akin to the structure of silver halide grains and film emulsion. By doing so, Fujifilm claims to have made the standard anti-aliasing filter redundant, which has the dual benefit of boosting effective resolution while reducing noir, benefits the discerning target user is likely to appreciate. The sensor's size places it in between the 1.1/7" sensors found in rival enthusiast cameras such as the Canon G15 and the 1" sensors used in Sony's RX100. Although in terms of its surface area it's far closer to the former type. In line with the CMOS sensors found in many other recent compacts, the Fujifilm X20's sensor has a backlit construction, whereby the wires and transistors which usually sit on the top of the sensor are moved behind the silicon substrate. The main benefit of this architecture is that, as these no longer physically obstruct the photodiodes, the sensor's capability to gather light is improved, which in turn helps control image noise. The sensor is also one of a growing number to include phase detection pixels in its array. These allow the camera to focus in a manner similar to a DSLR, although the more standard contrast detection system is also on board. Together, these form the heart of the intelligent hybrid AF system, which is said to switch between the two as and when required. This system has allowed Fujifilm to claim focusing speeds as short as 0.06 seconds, which, if that is the case, would certainly be impressive. Such speeds are only possible through the inclusion of a second-generation EXR processing engine, one which also includes a new lens modulation optimizer, whose purpose is to reduce any degradation from optical effects such as diffraction. Other benefits promised by the combination of the sensor and new processor include 30% less noise than the X10 and an imperceptibly short shutter lag of just 0.01 seconds. As with previous Fujifilm models, the X20 draws on the company's heritage in providing film simulations modes. These are designed to mimic some of the company's more popular emulsions, namely Aschia, Velvia, and Provia, with monochrome and sepia options among others, providing fitting options for all eventualities. Fujifilm has also broadened the X10's selection of advanced filters, with the now standard likes of toy camera, miniature, and partial color modes joined by new low-key and soft focus options. The lack of a built-in ND filter is curious omission, considering that it features in the company's Zone 100S model and on many others at this price and below, as is the absence of a bulb option. Some may also be surprised to learn that the rear display only resolves details with 460,000 dots rather than the more standard 920,000 dots we're used to seeing at this level. The top plate conceals a small pop-up flash that is manually released via a catch, although a hotchu is also provided for external flash guns. This hotchu can also be used to mount the MICS T1 stereo microphone, which plugs into a port on the camera's side. Handling. The X20 is constructed to a standard befitting its enthusiast billing. Despite being lighter than similar compacts, the camera's die-cast magnesium alloy body feels sturdy, with the thick top plate lending it a further air of solidity. This is complemented by the chunky, knurled aluminum dials on the top plate, as well as an all-metal lens ring. Most of the body is clothed in a synthetic leather to improve its handling, while the rubber pad that serves as a thumb rest allows the thumb to sit both securely and comfortably. The camera's grip serves its purpose well, although some may have preferred this to have also been rubbered and perhaps more distinct. The camera is powered up and down by turning the lens past the 28mm focal length marker. This system results in a prompt startup, and means the camera can be put away without having to wait for the zoom to retract. as on many other models. A further benefit of the lens being driven mechanically as opposed to electronically is that specific focal lengths can be reached with very little delay, which is particularly useful if needing to zoom quickly from one end of the lens to the other. The lens also has enough resistance at its 28mm end to prevent any overshooting, so there's little chance of accidentally powering the camera down when zooming. The exposure compensation dial is also as resistant as expected, although its precarious positioning on the corner of the top plate means that it's often knocked out of place as the camera is taken out of and put into a bag or pocket. The exposure compensation icon that indicates an adjustment has been made only changes color as the adjustment is actually being made, before changing back again. Any unwanted changes are therefore only usually noticed on the off chance after a number of images have been captured this way. There appears to be no logical reason why this icon cannot remain highlighted whenever any amount of exposure compensation is applied. Autofocus. Fujifilm makes some lofty claims about the camera's AF system, and in use there's little that frustrates. While it doesn't exhibit the immediacy of some other focusing systems, when set to its single point area option there's just a very brief shift of the lens at its wide-angle end before focus is confirmed, and only a slightly slower performance at the telephoto end. When the multi-option is selected, the system usually locates an appropriate subject in the scene, only occasionally straying to a slightly more obscure area. The camera's ability to focus in poorer lighting conditions with only a slight delay in more typical conditions is impressive in itself, but its performance against low contrast subjects devoid of detail is simply superb. Even without any assistance from its AF illuminator lamp, such subjects would tax any camera's AF system. Yet the X20's system succeeds in almost every situation. With a flick of the focus dial on the front plate, it's also possible to manually focus the lens by using the menu pad dial on the rear of the camera. As is the case on many similar cameras, any manual focus adjustment immediately magnifies the central portion of the display to facilitate focus, although this can be disabled if not required. A feature that can either be used in conjunction with this, or as an alternative, is the focus peaking mode, which displays the point of highest contrast by outlining the relevant area with a highlight. Combining the two makes light work of manual focusing, although it would be handy to have the further option of adjusting this highlight's color for better visibility, particularly for those with poorer eyesight. Color. Image. The film simulation bracket option quickly processes a single image upon capture into 3 film simulation styles of the user's choosing. Here, the Provia, Velvia, and monochrome options were selected. It's also possible to do this via in-camera raw processing, although it's a shame this lacks the option to preview the image prior to processing. Straight out of the camera, images appear relatively lifelike in terms of color, but curiously they are often more pleasing in RAW files than in JPEGs captured using the standard Provia film simulation mode. Because of this, some scenes will benefit from using a different film simulation mode if images are to be printed immediately. Some users may find it useful to assign the film simulation option to the FN button on the top plate, where it can be conveniently accessed prior to an image being captured. Portraits captured on the default Provia option show faithful skin tones, while the Velvia film simulation mode brings a welcome boost to the color of landscapes while keeping the overall scene realistic. In natural light there appears to be no issue with color casts from the auto white balance system, and even when challenged with scenes containing sodium street lamps or fluorescent sources the camera appears adept at reproducing the scene with well-balanced accuracy. Dynamic range. Processing raw images using the Silcapix RAW file converter X supplied with the camera shows a high level of detail to be regained from highlight areas. In landscape scenes, with thin tree branches lost to the brighter sky around them, it was possible to regain much of their structure, if not quite their finer details. Predictably, attempts to regain details from shadow areas give rise to more noise in these areas, although certainly no more than would be expected from such a camera, and naturally such a process would be followed by noise reduction if felt necessary. Still, for scenes with a wide dynamic range, where highlights are likely to blow out, it's useful to keep this on as it doesn't appear to be detrimental to the image otherwise. Highlight tone and shadow tone options are also included, with each offering hard or soft levels of adjustment. Some scenes simply don't require any such adjustment, and so here their effects are less likely to be noticed, but when used appropriately these can make a significant difference to the overall tonality of an image. Competition. With every major manufacturer carrying a RAW shooting enthusiast compact in their lines, the X20 is not short of competition. Canon's PowerShot G15 is one of 2 such models to also offer an optical viewfinder, the other being Canon's PowerShot G1X, and on paper it compares favorably. It matches the X20 for effective pixels, although its 20 to 140 mm f/1.8-2.8 lens boasts both a broader focal range and a brighter maximum aperture. Its 3-in LCD is also larger and eclipses the X20's screen resolution with its 922,000 dots. The Sony CyberShot DSC-RX100 offers 20.2 million pixels on a larger 1-in sensor and a 20 to 100 mm f/1.8-4.9 optic. While its maximum telephoto aperture and the lack of a viewfinder may disappoint, its highly detailed LCD screen and diminutive proportions make it a fitting alternative. Verdict: the X20 stands out from other enthusiast compacts for many positive reasons, not least of which is a design marred only by the placement of its exposure compensation dial. Although it may be difficult to distinguish any extra detail in real-world images from those of other enthusiast compacts, lab testing confirms the sensor's ability to record detail beyond what would ordinarily be expected for a 12 million pixel compact. Furthermore, the inclusion of a viewfinder immediately heightens its appeal with the addition of the digital trans panel, making it considerably more useful in low light. Despite its shortcomings, it's still the best optical viewfinder to be found on such a camera. Naturally, the X20 is not perfect. Its noise reduction system illustrates why shooting and manually processing raw images is often the best approach in terms of image quality, and it's a shame that the LCD screen's resolution hasn't improved since the X10. Lackluster video footage also disappoints, although these aren't significant issues when the camera's plus points are considered. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos, hit the subscribe button. And if you have something to say, please leave a comment.